How sad is that? I don't. You got Secretary Kerry out, who's running around talking about how how the Iranians we were working with them and how wonderful it was to work to get our sailors back. They were very cooperative. There was no malice from the Iranian government. Well, I mean, we're not talking about people who are anything like that whatsoever. But what are we supposed to do about that? Not much you can do when you're dealing with people who hate you. AFP. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry told Iran 10 U.S. sailors could be turned into a good story for good story. How the hell can you make that a good story? Now, Kerry called Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif at least 5 times on Tuesday to secure the safe release of the boat crews after they strayed into Iran waters in the Gulf and were captured. During the calls, a senior U.S. official told reporters Kerry urged his counterpart to consider the potential crisis an opportunity to showcase the strengths of the thawing diplomatic relationship between the two old foes. Actually, Kerry probably told him, hey, you really want to keep these U.S. soldiers? Because remember the last time you had Americans? Ronald Reagan was elected. Do you really want somebody who's going to be strong on defense in the United States to be elected president who isn't going to put up with your crap? Do you want a Ted Cruz or a Donald Trump? Or, because Donald Trump said he's going to carpet bomb you. So do you want him to be elected? One of the first ways to ensure that these type of people get elected in this country is if you hold on to these soldiers or these sailors. I am sure Kerry was probably telling his counterpart in Iran something like that. Because that's exactly what would happen. Remember, we had we had a weak president. We had an incompetent president in Jimmy Carter, so the Iranians just walked all over him. But then the American people elected Ronald Reagan, and Reagan was saying, well, hey, this is not going to stand. So the Iranians are like, well, maybe we better let these. Well, I'm sure Kerry was reminding them in his way that the same thing could happen again if they hold on to an nothing more than just had mechanical problems and drifted into Europe. Because that's the story that they've already told the American people. Whether or not that's a true story, we're not sure. We do not know. But that is a story that they already told the American people. So it would be very difficult for them to come back later and say, well, that's not the real story, because Americans wouldn't believe it. They wouldn't buy it. And they would just blame Obama for their capture if that's the true story. And they can't have that. No, they can't. Trust me, that cannot be the reality. I mean, maybe they were running a mission and got caught. That might be the case. We'll never really know. But the whole point is that since they told us that they were having mechanical difficulties, which, really suspicious. Not saying it's not true. It's hard to believe. Especially since these guys just sort of, instead of trying to defend their ships and get away, they just stood down automatically and allowed themselves. Something highly suspicious about that whole scenario. Now, look, I cannot definitively tell you that it did happen exactly as the administration is telling us, and I cannot definitively tell you that it happened because of something else that was going on. I don't know. And the only people who do know are people that should know within the administration and the Navy personnel that were involved. And obviously, Navy personnel aren't going to talk. If something else comes out that it was something different other than what they told us, well, it's really over for Obama and anybody who's on the Democrat side who's coming. Well, maybe not Bernie Sanders, but it's definitely over for Hillary. Sanders is the anti-political candidate, much like Trump is the anti-political candidate for. Look, trust me, I do not like Bernie Sanders at all. Anybody who comes across as being socialist or communist in the United States and trying to bring that here, they're not going to get my support and my vote. Absolutely not. But I can't acknowledge that this guy he's an outsider from the Democratic Party. Much like Trump is an outsider from the Republican Party. Look, Democrats can have outsiders too. Trust me, they don't want this guy to be their nominee any more than the GOP wants Donald Trump to be the Republican nominee. But the funny thing about this, though, Iranians out there who are too. The Iranians are saying the seizure of the U.S. boat is a lesson to troublemakers in Congress. Troublemaker to those in Congress, or is a lesson to troublemakers for those in Congress. From Reuters out of Dubai, Iran's army chief said yesterday the seizure of 2 U.S. Navy boats and their 10 sailors should be a lesson to members of the U.S. Congress trying to impose new sanctions on Tehran. Anybody ever put two and two together? You got Tehran, and terrorist. Just saying. I'm not inferring anything, really. Just kind of sounds the same, kind of like Sesame Street. Two of these things are kind of the same, sound the same, that type of thing. The incident in the Persian Gulf, which probably will not be the American forces' last mistake in the region. See, Reuters is saying mistake. It's a American forces' mistake. Okay. It's a mistake. Well, maybe it was a mistake. Well, if it's mechanical failure, how is it that a mistake? No, I know I'm having a hard time believing that the Navy had, a Navy ship, Navy boat, 2 of them, had mechanical failure and just drifted. Because if they were drifting, I'm sure that the other boat that supposedly did not have mechanical failure could have assisted. This is why this story is kind of suspicious. Look, those boats, I mean, although they're not super powerful, they are powerful enough to tow or drag another ship its size out of harm's way. But we were told that only one of the ships had mechanical failure. Okay, so the other boat didn't, and the other boat didn't try to bump or tow the mechanical away from Iranian waters. Something's not adding up. I know, but that's not what we're told. But I'm just sitting here, Monday quarterbacking, looking at it from the outside, saying that is just, does not sound like the U.S. Navy. It does not make any sense. Something is not adding up. Okay, I got it. And now you've got people like Reuters saying that it was the American forces' mistake. Well, how is it a mistake to have mechanical failure? Am I reading too much into this? You folks understand what I'm saying here, right? You've got the Obama administration telling us one story. You've got the lamestream media and Obama supporters in Reuters telling us a totally different story. Mechanical failure, not a mistake. It's just mechanical failure. Engines break down all the time. Automobile driver, you're driving down driving down the road, and your car just sputter and quit on you. Now, maybe you didn't do proper maintenance on it, but other than that, is it your mistake that caused the car to have mechanical failure? Maybe what you did up to that point, you failed to do something. So I don't know. I find it hard to believe that the United States Navy is not doing proper maintenance on their vessels. That doesn't make any sense either. So what was the mistake? But the mistake in the incident in the Persian Gulf, which probably will not be American forces' last mistake in the region, should be a lesson to troublemakers in the U.S. Congress, said Major General Hassan Firozabadi, head of Iran's armed forces. Tasnim news agency of the Soviet Union was called TASS. Here. What lesson is Congress going to need to learn from this? That's my question. What lesson? It's a lesson of, hell yeah, we're not going to let you get a nuclear weapon at all. We know what you'll do. That's the lesson. That is a great lesson that people should understand and learn. That these people this is what they're going to do if you give them a chance. That's the lesson. Yeah. Lead the American people absolute unadulterated truth. But can't always make them believe the truth. And indeed, some of them won't, even if you slap them upside the head.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smart